All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're unpacking one of the most powerful and, let's be honest, debated prophetic visions in all of Scripture, the binding of Satan for 1,000 years. This comes from Revelation chapter 20, and it's an incredible story of divine power, cosmic justice, and a promised age of peace. Just think about that for a second. 1,000 years. This one idea sets the stage for a massive shift in the world. But how do you actually silence the great deceiver? Well, the vision that John sees gives us the answer, and it all starts with a single figure coming down from heaven.
So the vision kicks off with this really intense image. I want you to try and picture this in your mind's eye, as the scripture lays it out. A solitary, celestial being descending with the tools of absolute, unquestionable authority.
Now, pay attention to the objects he's carrying. A key and a great chain. These are not just random props, right? They are packed with symbolism. The key represents the total authority to lock and unlock the ultimate prison. And that chain, that signifies the power to restrain even the most powerful spiritual force imaginable.
Okay, so now we get to the main event. This angel has a target, and the scripture is very, very specific about who it is. We're not talking about just any old foe. This is the ancient adversary. Did you catch that? The text uses 4 distinct titles: the dragon, that old serpent, the devil, and Satan. This layering of names is completely intentional. It's making it crystal clear with zero room for doubt that this is the ultimate source of evil, the one known throughout all of history by all these different names. And he's being definitively captured for 1,000 years, the period we've all come to know as the millennium.
The action here is so swift and so final. He's cast into the pit, it's shut, and a seal is placed on it. And that seal is a huge deal. It's like a divine deadbolt. It's a guarantee that he cannot escape and cannot continue his work of deceiving the nations for a very, very long time.
Okay, so the vision tells us what happens, but it brings up a massive question, doesn't it? What does it actually mean for Satan to be bound? Are we talking about a physical act, a spiritual one, or is it something else entirely?
You know, to get a handle on what binding might mean, it helps to look at how similar ideas are used elsewhere in Scripture. The word pit itself gives us a pretty big clue. In the ancient world, a pit wasn't just a hole in the ground. It was a prison, a dungeon. Think of the prophet Jeremiah. He was thrown into a pit specifically to silence him. So this image immediately suggests a state of being confined and totally powerless.
And this is where it gets really fascinating, because this lays out the 2 main interpretations that have really shaped theology for centuries. On one hand, you have folks who believe the binding is symbolic. The idea is that the Lord reveals so much truth that Satan's deceptions and lies, well, they just don't work anymore. On the other hand, there's the more literal view, which says he is physically confined, locked up, and unable to roam the earth. This symbolic idea, where truth just completely smothers deception, is an idea we see in other allegorical passages. To explore that a bit more, it's super helpful to remember that scriptures often use allegories to teach spiritual truths. An allegory is just a story where all the different parts represent something deeper. And when we look at this whole binding thing through an allegorical lens, other scriptures can offer some pretty powerful insights. This allegory of the olive tree is a brilliant illustration of that symbolic view. Here, evil is cast away from the vineyard, but not by a physical chain. It's cast away by the hard work and collective righteousness of the people. This suggests a really powerful idea, that maybe Satan is bound when humanity, together, turns to good, leaving no room for his influence to take root. So, beyond the how of it all, there's the big question of when. Let's look at the timeline. What does 1,000 years really mean? And when does this clock even start ticking? Well, many scholars believe the number 1,000 is itself symbolic. Just like that vineyard allegory speaks of a long time instead of a specific number of years, this 1,000-year period might just be a way of saying a vast, undefined era of peace and righteousness. So, the big takeaway here is there's no consensus on a start date. Not at all. Because the Bible often uses numbers in a symbolic way, and because you can interpret historical events in so many different ways, there's just no single universally accepted beginning. Theologians have pointed to several key moments as potential starts for this era, and it is absolutely still a subject of deep, deep discussion. And all of this brings us to what might be the most important question of all. So what? What does a world with Satan bound actually look like? what are the real-world implications for humanity? It's not just about what's happening on Earth. This period of binding also has a huge effect on the spiritual realm. According to this text, those in a state of spiritual prison are also held there until the final judgment, which happens at the end of Christ's 1,000-year reign on Earth, what's often called his millennial work.
And here it is, the ultimate promise. This passage confirms that the great millennium will come. It lays out the entire story arc for us. Satan will be bound. A long era of peace will reign. He'll be loosed for one final, brief conflict, and then comes the final judgment and the creation of a new heaven and a new earth.
So, as we wrap this up, it leaves us with a really powerful thought to chew on. If one interpretation is that Satan is bound by the righteousness of the people, it transforms this grand, cosmic event into something deeply, deeply personal. It forces us to ask, what power do our choices, my choices, your choices, our collective choices, have right now in creating a world free from deception?